Thanks very much for participating in our Shearing of the Vines event. It was a great day, just a little bit hot of course, but it still was a great day despite that, and the grapes look absolutely fantastic. I'm about to take them up and put these things through the crusher now, and Amber's agreed to come up and we're going to record things that happen to these grapes along the way. Now obviously at a certain point, once the fermentation is finished, you won't see a lot because the wine goes into barrels and then it just sits there and matures for about 18 months. We've got 3 bins, as you know, and I'm tipping we've got 1.5 tonnes, or within a few kilograms of that anyway. Each of those bins, they generally hold about 500 kilograms of hand-picked fruit, so 3 bins, about 1.5 tonnes of grapes. I reckon that'll make about just over 100 dozen, 110 dozen bottles of wine, which you'll see in a couple of years' time.
¿Cómo quieres que te quiera? Si el que quiero que me quiera no me quiere como quiero, no me quiere como yo, no me quiere como yo.
As you can see, we've tipped the grapes into the receival bin now, and and it's now moving slowly into the crusher. That big auger there is turning, and that moves the grapes in there. You'll notice there's a little bit of something white on there. What we've done is we've checked the acidity of those grapes and found they were a little bit low, so we've adjusted the acid in the grapes, and that's that white powder that you see on top there. So the grapes are now coming out of the receival bin from up top there, coming through the destemmer, the crusher destemmer, and falling out here. Now we've got the rollers open quite wide so that we're not actually crushing all the berries. We want to leave some of the berries intact, and they will go through the fermentation intact, but they will soften up then and release the juice during the fermentation stage. Stems are now coming out into this bin here, and then they'll go out and be composted up and then thrown back on the vineyard. When you pick these grapes, there was one thing that you picked that you didn't know you were picking, and that's you picked some wild yeasts with it. So as soon as we crush the grapes, the wild yeasts are on the skin of the grapes and they start the fermentation process. But using wild yeast is not the best idea, so what we do is we inoculate these crushed grapes with some concentrated yeast of the strains we want to give us the result we want in the wine. So although fermentation had started with the yeast in there, and it's now fermenting quite strongly in the small bins that you pick the grapes in. Okay, one of the byproducts of fermentation is carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is released in the fermenting what we call must. Crushed grape juice is called must, and that lifts up the skins to the top and takes them out of the juice. Well, we want to put those skins back under so that it releases the colour that's in the grapes, the nice red colour. So 2 or 3 times a day we plunge the must like this to wet it and keep the skins wet and release more colour. Just bring up some of the fermenting skins here, and you can just come out a little bit closer. And you'll see that there's still some full berries in there that are not crushed. Skins break down during the fermentation process. That enables us to keep a lot of the fruit flavours within the wine.